And welcome to episode 8 of the Football Fanatic podcast. Your host, Declan O'Connor, and back with me this week are Daniel and Howard. And we also have Glenn with us this week. Glenn is a big Everton fan, so we're delighted to have you with us then. Glenn, apologies. You're actually on there you go. Now you're off mute. How are you doing?
I'm not too bad, thanks. Sorry, I didn't know whether it was a thing I have to like chime in and say hello, thanks for having me on, or was that, like a given, So no, listen, thanks very much, lads. Appreciate the opportunity.
Not at all. So basically, we've brought on an Everton fan. We've had a Leeds fan on. So what we're trying to do, kind of not every week, but most weeks, is to kind of have a fan of a different club. Howard, Dan, and I, as you know, are City, Liverpool, and Arsenal. So over the coming weeks, we're going to have a Spurs fan on. We're going to have a West Ham United fan on. Also, interestingly, we're going to have a fan of Roma and of the Italian league in general. So that's going to be a really interesting show as well. Again, if you would like to follow the show, you can subscribe to us on YouTube and you can follow us on Spotify as well. Delighted to see so many kind of people listening in and watching over the last few weeks. The numbers seem to be going up little by little, so we really appreciate that. Grant, we'll get straight into it. Weekend review. There's only one game I'm going to start with, and that is at Bramall Lane yesterday. Sheffield United 0, Newcastle 8. It's not your everyday score. It was a bit of a freak game. And Dan, I might start with you first of all. Is Heckingbottom, how long will he last? Will he last, do you think?
He'll have some joy in trying to picking them up for next week. Yeah, it was a shambles. And you know what? When it went 4 or 5, it really looked like they'd given up. Some of the goals they conceded in the second half where you'd see them on the fucking AstroTurf pitch. Like it was just
a joke.
It was a joke. Newcastle, as good as they are, it's a big result for them. I thought Sheffield United would give them a good game based on Newcastle playing in Europe during the week, but it was all over within the first few minutes, really, wasn't it? Like they had 2 set pieces early on, and just some of the goals were so bad. Look, we all kind of said at the start of the season we thought that they'd be, potential candidates, that they probably would go down, and he'll have a hell of a job now trying to pick them up for next week after that. And I wouldn't mind, with a lot of games they played, they've been in games. They've lost by the odd goal, but they've been competitive. But that was probably a big wake up call for them. So it either goes one or two ways now, but they really are in need of picking up a result fast. And that as well. And sure as Newcastle, they could say that they're back on track. They got a draw away at Milan, which is probably not a bad start to the campaign as well. And all our players are scoring. Wilson scoring, Isak scoring, Amron got one. Trippier. I actually can't even remember how many fucking assists Trippier got in the game, but it was a strong showing. And it was a bit of a freak one as well, I think. Yeah,
it was. Let's be honest, it is a freak result, and we won't see it happen too often. But I suppose 8 different scores, so it's all good for Newcastle. But as a defence, you're 4 or 5-0 down. Glenn, I'm just gonna come to you on this one now. You're 4 or 5-0 down. How do you kind of bring yourself about to kind of keep going just throughout the second half and they did throw the towel in, but do you see, this is your kind of first episode on, so do you see Sheffield United as one of the relegation candidates?
Hard to look at it any other way, I think, to be honest with you folks. They've gotten rid of 2 of their best players right on the eve of the season starting. One of them you would imagine, one of their relegation rivals.
Burnley,
gone to Burnley. Obviously, Ndoi was brilliant for them in the championship as well. So, I don't know what kind of a stint Heckenbottom's going to have there. But it's very hard to kind of point the finger at him. Obviously, yesterday maybe a bit of an anomaly. It's difficult enough to see them pulling up too many trees now, to be honest with you. You'd almost you wouldn't be surprised if Luton managed to pip them for 19th. And look, that's just a little bit ambitious from an Everton perspective, but
pip them for 19th.
Yeah, you'd feel for them a little bit.
No, I get you. And whatever it is, at the start of the season, we were kind of doing our predictions for the first manager to be sacked. Did we all go with Heckenbottom?
Oh, I'm on Irola. I know I'm on for the Bournemouth manager Irola.
Oh, sorry.
Which I still think is a chance.
No, I think Kieran went with Heckenbottom. Yeah, I think yourself as well. You think you picked him, didn't he?
I went with Heckenbottom.
You went for Moyes, Howard.
Moyes. He's telling you, lads, watch that space. He's going to be gone yet. Head's on the chopping board after that Liverpool result.
I suppose just it's telling as well. And I was reading something on the Athletic this morning that all three teams that came up, Luton, who the fuck are Luton? Luton, Sheffield, and my mind's gone blank at Burnley. Luton, Sheffield, and Burnley. They came up, and out of three of them find themselves in the relegation zone after 6 games at 1 point each. Like, is that telling of the difference in kind of quality in terms of the Championship and the Premier League? Years ago, obviously, it was much kind of tighter, but like, are the Premier League teams starting to pull away? Howard, go ahead.
Yeah, I don't like, just thinking there, I don't know like how much money they actually spent, them 3 clubs between them. Like, if you look at the likes of Notts Forest, they came up last year and they absolutely spent an absolute bomb. Now, I'm not saying that their method is a genius method, but it worked for this season, you know. So you either have a good team when you're going into the Premier League from the Championship, which Luton definitely didn't. They just scraped through and were lucky to even get into it. But then to not even put much money into it, you're not expecting. How are they expecting to stay in the Premier League if that's the case? Now, Burnley probably had a good team last year and wiped the floor in the Championship, but that doesn't mean that they're going to make it in the Premier League if they hadn't, you know, spend a bit of money to bring them to the next level, because there's such a wide gap there between the champions of the Championship and trying to survive in the Premier League. Like, so
I was reading about Luton today as well. I suppose the fact that a lot of people are taking the piss out of them, that like they're gone already, more or less. Well, they're not, but it's quite likely that they will be relegated again, unless something major happens. But I suppose they're guaranteed, for being each season in the Premier League, you're guaranteed 90 million. Now they've spent their biggest expenditure during the summer wasn't on any player; it was on the redevelopment of their stadium to bring it up to standard for the Premier League, which I think it came in, if I read it right, 17-ish million. I mean, they're guaranteed 90 million just for kind of this one season, if it is a once-off. So I mean, you can argue, yes, the piss has been taken out and people are laughing at them. They have them in their last man standing every week to be bet, etc. But they are going to possibly go back down to the Championship with a lot of money in their bank and then be able to kind of reinvest it in the club. So the article, if you have the Athletic, if you're subscribed to it, give it a read. It's an interesting kind of outlook from their manager on just kind of what their strategy is and what they're doing this season with the Premier League. So next, we'll move on to Chelsea and Aston Villa. Things are not looking good for Chelsea at the moment. 1-0 to Aston Villa. It's the same issue. It's the same issue as it has been for the last few weeks. They're creating chances, but they're not finishing them. So I suppose, is there a question mark over the decision to loan out Lukaku? This is just something that I wanted to kind of say to you. Dan, what do you think of that? No, completely no.
Yeah, no.
You don't rate him?
No, I just think as toxic as it is there now, I don't think he would have helped out. He's been a bit of a nuisance, I think. I remember the days actually, and Ben having Ben on there, we could get his opinion on it, because I remember when he was at Everton, like how good he was, and the moves to the bigger clubs, I don't think it ever really worked out too well for him. He was kind of hit and miss in and out. I just don't think it'd be a good idea. Like that kind of ship had sailed. I think when he got loaned out to Italy, the whole thing of, I love Inter, I want to go to Inter, like it really rubbed the Chelsea fans, I think, up the wrong way. And I know now we can kind of go to that saying, oh, they need a goal scorer. Why didn't they get a goal scorer? Like Lukaku was chipping in there over in Italy. But I think Italy suits Lukaku. And I'm not sure whether or not he would be much use starting up front for Chelsea at the moment, And yeah, so no, it's a no for me anyway.
No for you. And just thinking, I mean, with Pochettino coming in, I mean, it would have been a chance to work under a new manager with new ideas, bring him back into the squad. They're crying out for someone to score goals, and he can score goals. I know, like, his time at Chelsea beforehand didn't go to plan, but he is a goal scorer, and I'm just wondering, have they missed something there? Like, but Jackson's not doing it. He's banned now for the next game as well. He got 5 yellow cards. Glenn, what do you make of Chelsea's start so far?
I mean, pretty poor, to be honest with you. I actually thought they looked decent enough on the opening day against Liverpool. And then for about the first 20 odd minutes of the West Ham game, they were the better side, missed the penalty. And it's fallen to pieces a bit for them, to be honest with you. Bit of a soft centre, a lot of new players at the back. And yeah, I mean, Mudryk's been an absolute joke. Has he even got one assist yet? And it's yeah. I mean, I would be cautiously optimistic. Everton might even finish above him this year. But my poor brother, who's a Chelsea fan, and he's pretty despondent. He's already on the Potch out brigade. But he's pretty crude about these things. But you can sort of
is that a thing already among Chelsea fans?
I honestly couldn't tell you, but I think he sort of looked at it and sort of said, "Oh, we've got a manager 5 years past his sell by date," and then he's looking at Postecoglou yesterday and kind of drawing comparisons. So kind of what you don't have, but yeah, I mean, I think their form for the calendar year is literally I think it's actually bottom now after.
It's awful, yeah.
I think just on that, Deck, the Potch out thing, I think Chelsea fans were in love with him in pre-season. He was playing great stuff, but he seemed to change it then quite dramatically in the first game of the season. He started playing Caldwell out left back, and he made Chilwell vice captain, and now he's not starting, and Reece James is getting injured, and now it just seems a bit of a mess from what he had planned in pre-season and the setup he had in pre-season. I think Chelsea fans were a bit disappointed then when they went in and he had a completely different take on it. So that's why Gallagher starting in midfield as well. I think not that he's just a scapegoat now for the Chelsea fans. But it's just an interesting one that's from reading some stuff online. That's what people seem to be getting at, is just the fact that he's kind of changed things so dramatically from the good stuff that they did earlier on in pre-season.
And I thought in their opening couple of games they're going to what Glenn was saying. So I thought Chilwell, when he was playing, was one of their best players.
Yeah,
he was getting forward. He was nearly playing left wing forward for a lot of the, and then suddenly he was just dropped out of the side. But they're in trouble. They've only beaten Luton this season. That's and they spent $1 billion. So
they're billion. It's funny. It's a billion now.
They're 14th in the league. I mean, after 6 games, 1 win.
And even Thiago Silva, I think Thiago Silva made a mistake, didn't he? And that's rarity as well. Even he got cut out, I think, for the goal. And just on Villa as well, they've had a solid enough start considering their 2 defeats are Newcastle away and Liverpool away.
Yeah.
But, they kind of got their act together a bit there, and I think it was a massive result. And Diaby's a handful. Watkins is now off the mark as well. So
just actually on Watkins, I wanted to ask you a question on him. Is Aston Villa his level, or do you think he could go a little bit higher? Because he's been there for a few years, and he's a good player. He's a solid player, but can he go? Is there another gear to him? Do you think? Could a club come in at some stage, or do you think Villa is his level?
I think Villa's his level.
Yeah,
Howard.
He shows glimpses, doesn't he, of this guy could kick on now, and then when you expect him to kick on, even at the start of the season, people had them in their FPL, their fancy teams and everything, expecting him to kick on, and he just doesn't seem to live up to the hype just when you think he's going to hit it, So I don't know. There's been rumors of him linked to top teams in the past, but I don't think he's as I agree with Dan. I think Villa is his level at the moment. Now maybe he kicks on, but I think at the moment,
I just don't think he could go in if he went into any of the top teams. He'd be a squad player. He wouldn't be a regular starter. And even after he's gone through patches where he's hot, he bangs in a few, and then he can go through patches where he has a bit of a drought. But no, he is decent though. He's plenty of pace.
Yeah.
He is a decent striker. He's a good striker for Villa to have. Just I couldn't see any of the top clubs going in from. I think any of the other clubs, I think Ivan Toney would be the one that maybe a top club, would maybe go in for in January or maybe next summer of kind of the size of the top 6.
Is Ivan Toney worth a gamble in January? We'll see. Come here, next game, Arsenal versus Spurs, 2-2. Lads, the 2 had Arsenal to win this in your predictions last week, and you both fell flat on your face.
What did you have, Deck?
I had Spurs to win. And
flat on your face.
Kind of flat on my face as well. But everyone, Paul Merson was kind of on Sky Sports as well. He'd be shocked if Arsenal didn't win, etc. Something has changed at Spurs. Postecoglou has absolutely changed the culture. I know it's only 6 games in, and you can't read too much into it yet. But Maddison kind of was interviewed during the week as well, saying that the atmosphere is very positive, and they don't look to be missing Harry Kane. Son has stepped up with 2 goals at the weekend. What did you make of the game overall? Glenn, what did you think of the game at the weekend?
Really enjoyed it, yeah. I actually half thought Spurs probably shaded it, to be honest with you. Really, really impressed with Udogie, to be honest with you, as well. Thought Nketiah was maybe a little bit lucky to stay on the pitch. And on another day, Spurs might have won. But yeah, there was kind of a lot of this talk all week that, Arsenal will just have too much for them, which is maybe showing Spurs a little bit of disrespect considering the start they'd had. I thought they were well worth the draw in the end, to be honest.
Yeah, no, I fully agree. Howard, what did you think of the game?
Yeah, I even being biased towards Arsenal, I agree with Glenn there. Like I didn't expect Tottenham to be as good as they were. But I think your man Sarr and Basum is a new player in there in the field. He's playing like a man, on fire. His touches and his turns, his confidence is just insane. Like so, it's crazy like how he didn't even get a look in with Conte, and now he's one of their star men. But Maddison, quality again. Although
absolutely.
he was unlucky, or he was lucky with the Jesus. Jesus should have finished that. That's I feel like. Tottenham have them, them chances like Jorginho messed up and he puts the ball through for Son and Son doesn't miss that, while Jesus gets the same chance and you're just not clinical enough to put it away. Not saying that that Arsenal had more chances. I just think when it comes to these kind of derby games, you need to be decisive and finish when it comes to it. So
that was for 2-0, Howard, wasn't it?
That would have been 2-0. I think it would have been a tough uphill battle for Tottenham to come back from that.
I know, in fairness to you as well, injuries did play their part. Rice had to go off, which is obviously.
Nketiah is just I don't know why they shifted. Jesus hasn't started any games up front for Arsenal in Premier League this season. That's just the way it's been. Because he's been injured and stuff. We're missing him up top. We played against PSV there during the week. I know it's the Dutch league or whatever, but he's such a different animal up front on his own rather than putting him out in the left wing and then hoping Nketiah is going to do it. Nketiah looks like he had rollerblades on him there at the weekend. He couldn't literally, I swear to God, he couldn't keep his feet anytime the ball went into him. And he's the player that I don't mean to harping on and giving out stink about him, but he's a player that he's not in the team for a few games and then to put him on and he actually is on fire. But then when he goes for a few games in a row, he starts to go downhill fast and he doesn't get half as many goals as what he should have been. So I think the sooner they move Jesus up top, hopefully it'll fix things. And Rice was a big loss as well at halftime, I think.
Any word on how serious Rice's injury is?
Not too serious from.
Will it be healed in 2 weeks?
Yeah, apparently there's going to be Martinelli, Trossard, Partey is supposed to be back, and Rice should be back. This is what the Daily Mail have said today now, but they're hopeful that it's not. Well, the murmur is coming out is that it's not serious or anything. So,
and is it Arsenal versus City? Are you at home or are we at home?
Home in the Emirates.
Here in the Emirates, okay.
Yeah. So
just on Tottenham's second goal, Jorginho giving the ball away. Dan, what do you make of Jorginho as a player?
I wouldn't rate him very highly.
No, me neither.
I think that time when he was in that Ballon d'Or talk was I nearly wanted to get sick.
I disagree. Sorry about this. I completely. I know that you're talking about there, but
Howard, hold on. You'll have your chance.
I know.
In a sec.
It depends. It depends what type.
Go ahead.
Yeah, no, it depends what type of team you're going to put him in. If you put him in a team that's going to control the ball, control possession, and you have a lot of legs around him, I think you can get away with him. He done all right, I thought, last season, actually, when he came in for Arsenal last season. I thought he done okay. But if you're putting him in an Arsenal team in a derby, which was electric end to end, and you're putting in Jorginho, and it kind of gave me a light bulb moment. It was like Arsenal, everyone talking about Arsenal having a great window. And, for me, it was kind of like it's rice or bust when you look at it now.
Well, we'd have Partey, that would be.
Yeah. Partey's good, yeah. But just when I looked at the bench for Arsenal, fair enough, I know Trossard and Martinelli were out. But we're looking at lads like Smith Rowe and Nelson, these guys who haven't really kicked the ball much for Arsenal coming on. And I'm just comparing them to what we're talking about. We're talking about a team that's hoping to challenge for the league title. And what City can bring on, the resources that they have, fair enough. I know you're comparing chalk and cheese things squad-wise, but with the players that City will be able to bring off the bench. City had a couple of injuries over the last couple of weeks, and the players they're able to bring in versus what Arsenal were able to bring in against Spurs. And I think that's maybe why Arsenal didn't win the game. I think maybe if they had players like Trossard coming off the bench, Rice sitting a bit injured, maybe Arsenal would have went on to win the game. But to answer your question, not really a fan of Jorginho. And I just feel that he's in a possession-based side, 100%. If you ferried him back off to Italy, or he'd be unbelievable. He'd be getting player of the year. I just don't think in an Arsenal side they're looking to challenge for the league title. If you're going to be playing high intensity, he couldn't press the button on a remote, so.
Starting to think I look good in Italy, Dan. This right.
But I know Howard's going to say last year when he came into the team he done well, and he did.
No, I suppose the question from Deco is, do you rate him as a player? Not that like, is he going to make Arsenal a better player? Like, you can't disregard what he's won in the game, like, and how he's performed for Italy and Chelsea and even Napoli when he was playing for them. Like he is a top player now. Maybe not anymore, but his reading of the game and his passing is excellent. Like, as you said, you need to have the legs around him when you're playing him. But he is technically excellent. Like, there's a reason why the likes of Sarri wanted him, Arteta wanted him. They like the way he thinks. They know that his understanding of the game is very good. You see him ordering around players everywhere. But anyway, look, I don't think he makes the midfield better when he comes on or anything like that. But I'm just on the depth, I guess. Arsenal were playing third choice players coming off the bench rather than second choice players, because of the injuries or whatever they have. But it is, if you have Rice and Partey in centre midfield, you'd think that's probably nearly Partey is your second backup. You nearly think that's probably the best two centre midfielders in the league. Like, do you know what I mean? So like for him to be injured at the same time, Rice is just unfortunate. And look, we'll see what happens. Like, I think Smith Rowe and I think Smith Rowe is a good player, but like you're saying there, Dan, that like City are bringing off all these players, but like Arteta needs to start rotating more because in order to make these players and people have the faith in like, oh, they're bringing on Smith Rowe or oh, they're bringing on Nelson, like you compare that to City back in the day bringing on Mahrez, but like Mahrez was on every second game, so people knew he was good. Well, if you haven't played Smith Rowe at all and you're bringing him on, people are like, oh, sure, there's no depth. Like, you're only bringing on a lad who never plays, Anyway, but
okay.
We'll see
on the forward, I see that it's all over the media today. Like, it's kind of all dumped on it. Jesus missed that chance, and everyone's really saying today about Arsenal needing a striker. Do you think they do, or do you think Jesus will chip in with the 15, 20?
They need. Well, if you're playing Jesus, like he's not going to stay fit for the whole season. So you need a top striker. And Kedia is not a good enough second sub to bring on, like you were saying there about he's the third choice, not a second choice, really. So Ivan Toney.
Argue though when he's gone in. Oh, you could argue.
He's good. He's good, but he's been lacking. I think like he's not going to be a top striker in any other team. Like, you know what I mean? Maybe in a mid-table or whatever, but not for like a team going for the title. Like, so like you compare that to Julian Alvarez like coming on for City. Like,
Yeah, fair point. Okay, we will move on to the next game. Liverpool 3, West Ham 1. Glenn, I'm going to go to you now on this one because you're a Evertonian.
Nice and biased view.
What have you made of Liverpool's start, and then just your opinion of Liverpool in general?
I'll speak strictly in football in terms, I suppose. Most of my mates are Reds, and I think even for years when Everton were doing semi-well, Dan would drop me a line and, the annual 3 points of Goodison, and he'd send me a message. He's stopped in recent years, so maybe there's no fun in it anymore. It's almost cruel at this stage. But no, I think Liverpool are a fabulous footballing team. It pains me to say. I did them in the outright bet at the start of the season. I did the City Liverpool 1-2. I think it was 5-1. I know there was some sort of concerns about holding midfield and kind of the back of that, but I just sort of look at they mightn't get close to City this season, but they're gonna games where they can see 2, they'll just score 4 in. And their firepower is genuinely frightening. I know we go to Anfield after the international break. But yeah, I mean, after a European game, West Ham, tough opposition. And like I'm sure Klopp would be absolutely delighted with the performance, the manner, and the victory yesterday. I mean, arguably could have been a couple of goals down. Big save from Alisson after 15 minutes there. But I mean, after that, they never really looked back. Honourable mention for Jarrod Bowen, which was a brilliantly worked goal. And yeah, agree with was it Harris at West Ham are a good side. But super win for Liverpool. Hate to say. I think I would probably see them as comfortably second at the end of the season. It's my own view. I don't know how far they'd be behind City, but I think they'd be second, and that's a few quid in it as well.
Okay. Dan, what did you make of the game?
Yeah, look, as Glenn has said, and like I'll be saying it all season, Liverpool again got a good rub of the green at times, gave away a good few chances. Van Dijk was poor for the goal. But as Glenn has said there, if we do concede one, we are likely to score a couple. And that is, Hammers is always going to him. And it was great to see them come through it. I think they come through a few tough ones, and they have a few tough ones ahead. Sebastian was he's a real player. You can't underestimate as well Salah's value. He's an assist or a goal in his last 12 for Liverpool. He's never injured, and he's just an exceptional footballer. And it's lucky. We might only have him for this season, but like, you know, you can't underestimate. There's no numbers he put up. There's no one else in the Liverpool side that'd be able to get close to them numbers, you know. And Nunes got his goal. He missed a sitter, but then he scored a really well worked goal.
It was
would
a
have a
great
concern.
goal.
It was a great goal.
Fantastic ball by McAllister.
Yeah, it was really good. But I would still be concerned going away to Brighton and away to Spurs when you're kind of playing against, you know, I think better sides at the moment anyway, and on current form. I can be very concerned about the lack of a six. I don't think McAllister can play there. Even though it's a great ball for the goal, I think that you know, he'll get bullied. When I think of like Basuma and Sarr in the midfield next week, I'm concerned. And even looking at Brighton's midfield and that as well, I just feel that's where there's an issue for me. And there's only so long you'll go away with like Antonio missed a sitter, as well. It was very similar to the guy was Acuna, is it, or for Wolves the week previous, had like a header from Antonio as well. Like, has to be putting that away. I think again against better teams like likes of Son or even Ferguson, like they'll gobble them up. So I'm still treading with caution on Liverpool. I think it's a great start. Like, they are unbeaten in 17 games in the Premier League, which is fucking mental when you think about it. You know, with all the negativity that was around the club last year, they did finish the season really strongly and have started this one really well. So the next two games, as I said last week on the pod, will tell a lot, I think, around them. Would be a lot more confident about where they might finish than I was at the start of the season. I was like, it'll be United and Liverpool for third and fourth, but you know, I think that they might be closer to City looking at the way they've started the season and the way others the way others have started as well. I think it's been a solid start for them. Something else I want to say about Liverpool. I just think that I'd like to see the front three now get a run of games, and for me, it's Diaz, Nunes, and Salah. I think I said it on our first pod to give Nunes 15-20 games through the middle. You know, give him that run now through the middle and see how he gets on. But like, he's a handful. He really is, and he offers us something different. I don't think we really had. He played a lot from the left last year. But we see him through the middle. He's intelligent enough. His runs off the front. So I think if he can keep going and chipping in with goals, as Glenn said there, I think we'll outscore teams. He might concede, but we'll outscore a lot of teams this season.
Okay. We're just going to move on to Man City versus Notts Forest. Man City won 2-0 at the weekend. Look, I mean, 6 wins out of 6. I can't complain. Rodri at the weekend was an idiot. Very unlike him.
A thug.
Yeah, it was. I mean, it was ridiculous. He's never kind of shown that side of him before. So whatever Gibbs White said to him, whatever. But also Dan sent a message to the group after that saying that the league is over. Now, obviously, he was only joking, etc. But Howard and Glenn, just a quick one. Do you think that the league isn't over? But I mean, who are going to be City's closest rivals? Do you think this season? Glenn, we'll start with you.
Liverpool, hands down.
Liverpool, yeah. Arsenal at all?
I think that they're definitely going to be second or third, and they're going to have a good season again. Might even go on a good run in the Champions League. Still a few players short, and again, I just tear up every time Liverpool go to the attack. Like, could be any one of our scorers, and you know, I'm sure there's probably 5 or 6 players there that Arsenal would look at and say, "Geez, we'd have one of them on the bench, we'd be doing well." I mean, the fact that Gakpo and Jota aren't even getting into the conversation, and then you've got like the likes of Harvey Elliott chipping in with goals as well. I mean, that's just unbelievable firepower.
Howard, what do you think?
Well, I don't think the league is over. I know Dan is.
No. No, I know, but he was only taking the piss.
I know, but some people might feel like that, even though just simply because the City train is up and running, and there doesn't seem to be anyone stopping it anytime soon. And it's just the relentlessness of City rather than everyone else slacking. Like looking up there, Arsenal are only 1 point behind what they were this time last year after 6 games. So, and they had supposed to have a brilliant start last year. Yeah. So it's not like, wow, let's throw in the towel already. Like, so look, there's a huge amount of time to go. You know, my worry is that Arsenal aren't creating enough clear-cut chances in comparison to Liverpool. Like Liverpool, they're kind of like Arsenal and Liverpool are like the opposites. Like, you know, Arsenal probably more solid defensively. But attacking wise, they're probably not as electric as Liverpool. If you were to switch the Liverpool 3 into the Arsenal squad, you know, it would be like a hybrid that would give City a good go of it. But yeah, I think
if Liverpool are rock and roll, Arsenal are more what?
Jazz,
Blues.
maybe. I don't know. Yeah.
All right. Okay. Come here. The remaining fixtures. So Brighton 3, Bournemouth 1, Burnley 0, Man United 1, Luton 1, Wolves 1, Crystal Palace 0, Fulham 0. And then the final fixture was Brentford 1, Everton 3. So as you've seen this week, we have an Evertonian on with us. So Glenn, I'll just get your first kind of your response to the game at the weekend, and then I just have 2 or 3 questions on Everton, on being an Everton fan, different things. So what did you make of the game at the weekend?
Well, I mean, it's just a sweet relief, really. It was a little bit unexpected. I think when I saw Kevin Shada going down and getting injured about 15 minutes before kickoff, and then I kind of looked at the lack of Tony, lack of Rico Henry, lack of Ben Mee, De Silva's out. You just started thinking, geez, we might actually have a chance of getting a result today. Probably still would have taken a draw, mind you, but it was as close to a complete performance as I've seen from an Everton Dyche side. Probably as good as the 5-1 away at Brighton last season. It was nobody under a 7 out of 10. We've obviously got Beto up front, and then Calvert-Lewin can come on for the last half an hour. And I can't remember the last time Everton could actually say, we're bringing a striker on who's as good or even better as the one that's on the pitch at the moment. You've got Neil Maupay on loan at Brentford, ironically kind of sitting in the rafters there, one goal in the year from us. Previous times it's been Rondon or it's been Ellis Sims, who obviously wasn't ready. So I mean, it definitely took a lot of the weight off what's been a very, very gloomy period, with pretty much no positives on or off the pitch. And I think because of the lack of positives on the pitch, it meant that everyone was just focusing on what's going on off the pitch as well. So I think there's just a lot more calm heads kind of a Monday, looking at 2 winnable fixtures coming up and sort of looking at other teams in and around us and saying, right, well, we might just get away with it again this season, even if there is maybe, a slap in the wrist, a transfer embargo or something like that coming down the line as well. So
just I suppose on that, okay. Obviously the weekend you had a really good result and you needed that, let's be honest. And I also was delighted to see Calvert-Lewin back, because I mean, if you keep him fit, you have your goal scorer there. I remember it was 3 or 4 years ago, he had an outstanding season. But again, it's just the fitness, keep him fit, and that's the main issue basically. But I suppose, what do you feel over the last 2 years? Everton have been, they've been down at the bottom, they've been fighting relegation. What are the issues going on in the background that, like, say, the likes of all listeners, they wouldn't know about? Like, what is going on in the club that kind of has led them to be relegation regulars over the last 2 years?
Well, look, when you run that badly off the pitch, eventually it seeps onto the pitch. People may have heard Jamie Carragher in the past call Everton the worst run club in England. Sorry, that's Ziggy agreeing with me there and agreeing with Jamie Carragher. Yeah, worst run club in England, and he's dead right. The majority shareholder Farhad Bashiri came in from having owned a very, very small stake in Arsenal, and basically treated the club kind of as his plaything, didn't leave the football and decisions to the football people. So we burned through a couple of directors of football, Steve Walsh from Leicester, Marcel Brands. And I mean, you're talking, Gylfi Sigurdsson for 45 million was Mashiri's personal decision. We already had Davy Klassen and Wayne Rooney to play the 10 role that season, didn't replace Lukaku. I mean, the list goes on. I think then there was a brief period of relief with Carlo Ancelotti. That kind of felt like a fever dream. I still can't quite believe he managed us.
Yeah.
But then the decision to hire Benitez, obviously, you think was just kind of, if you were being an accelerationist, that's really what kind of, led things to go sour. The fans turning on the team, and then we managed to just put it back together, stay up by the skin of our teeth. But Lampard was never the answer either, as we saw, and we were then hamstrung by financial fair play, a grossly misbalanced squad, and I suppose growing negativity in the background in terms of how did Mashiri get the money for the club? Was he kind of a shadow figure for Usmanov, who was also connected with Arsenal and who had his assets frozen at the start of the Russian invasion of Ukraine? So ultimately, I think his hope was use Usmanov's money. His USM Holdings or Megaphone, or his big company, he was sponsoring our training ground, Finch Farm, for a significant amount of money a year as well. And I think that's how they were going to finance the new stadium. So that money basically dried up. And then obviously, Arsenal and Spurs fans found out the same thing. When you're building the ground, it just becomes this black hole for money. So now a lot of the profit and sustainability thing is actually related to the stadium as well. But yeah, I mean, it's obviously seeped onto the pitch. Dyche was brought in to basically do the damage control last season. Somehow pulled it out of the hat. But I think we're still probably a way off, even sort of saying we could just have a nice boring season. I think we might kind of be 15th, 16th at the end, but then we don't know what's around the corner. There's kind of, you're hearing the A word, administration being thrown around. Anybody who's read into 777 partners who look like they're going to buy the majority stake, doesn't make for great reading, to be honest with you.
They own a lot of clubs, or they own part of a lot of clubs around Europe, and what I'm reading is a lot of kind of fan unrest at some of these clubs. They don't like the way that these 777 are running the clubs. So what you're hearing as well, it's not good about them?
Well, I suppose I started off reading negative stuff. They've about 6 or 7 clubs. I can't remember them all off the top of my head who they have a majority stake in. So the Standard Liège fans are pretty unhappy. I think it's a bit more mixed with Genoa and Hertha Berlin.
Sevilla as well, I think.
Sevilla. They only have a 15% stake in Sevilla, so they're not a majority shareholder, so to speak. But I think there's now I have to just give if anybody really wants to go down a rabbit hole with this, there's a podcast called the American Toffees Podcast. It's about an hour long, and they've basically done a big expose on 777. And it's a little bit more mixed in terms of being all doom and gloom, and in terms of what they may want to be coming and doing, which is basically just like outgoings are significantly higher than incomings at the moment. So they need to actually put some basic business acumen on Everton Football Club, which doesn't exist. One of the biggest red flags of any business or entity that or a team that like isn't run well is like Everton just don't like communicate with their fans. So a lot of the time, Evertonians are having to actually do guesswork or like read things on social media. Like if the club had to come out and said they're not that bad, actually, most people would actually be fine with that. But if it wasn't for the likes of Toffee TV, for example, I wouldn't know anything that's going on with the club because they just don't do any kind of communication at all. So you can talk all day about how bad they are. It would be very difficult for 777 to make a bigger hames of it, but they have to pass all of the FCA and the fitness and probity tests and all that first, and that's not a guarantee either. But it's kind of gone from being, Jesus, I hope it's not 7-7 to fuck. If it's not 7-7, who's it going to be? So sorry, that's a pretty bleak prognosis.
No, that's all right.
It was nice to talk about beyond the pitch stuff for a little while.
Dan, I was going to come on to you actually. Just whatever you kind of want to add, but also just your opinion on Everton over the last few years as a Liverpool fan.
But like they've been a bit of a shambles, and that's kind of what Glenn mentioned there about the text messages. Yeah, I did feel a bit bad, because it was just it's they've enough going on, they've enough problems there without me, adding to it there. I know. But they've been a shambles, as Glenn is kind of alluded to there, and as well they've gone through with 7 or 8 managers, and I think their last financial losses, I think it brought it to, is it 430 million or something in losses over the last 5 years. So they've been hemorrhaging money there, bought quite poorly, and it's been bleak for them. I thought the result of the weekend was a cracking result, though. I wouldn't have given them a chance away at Brentford as well, a tough place to go. It just goes to show you that they can grind out a result, and I think some of the goals even got were really kind of tight goals. They were, and I think some more of that. We get Lewin fit man as well, and get him amongst them as well. He's a handful as well. I just wanted to ask Glenn actually on outgoings. I think I mentioned it here once or twice in the podcast. I was really surprised with Iwobi and Gray, looking at them from last season. I know it was a poor season for Everton, but I thought in the games that I watched Everton play, they were 2 of their better players or best players, maybe along with Doucouré. And I just thought it was a strange one when you're looking at the team and the lack of goals in the team that they got rid of both of them. I know the Gray one kind of went really sour. I think he wanted to move and Dyche didn't want to let him go, and then I think he pulled a bit of a strap, and then they kind of had to sell him. But then to sell Iwobi on deadline day and not really have, I know they brought in Jack Harrison, which I think he hasn't played yet or whatever. But I just was interested in your thoughts on that, because I thought that was a move for me of a club that are, I don't know what, like again, it was another real strange move, and then to kind of go and pick a punt on a guy who's banged in a few goals in Italy has been your mainstay, hoping he'd hit the ground running, and getting rid of them to it. That was a strange one.
Yeah, well, look, I obviously follow the Toffees a bit closer. And I mean, I think the problem I had with the Gray and Iwobi departures was more so the timing and the manner of them. Yeah. Obviously, Gray went after the deadline when we could have gotten a few quid for him off Fulham before the start of the season, and he wasn't getting a squad number. And I mean, that wasn't handled particularly well. The Iwobi one was as simple as he's 10 months left in his contract, and we're not in a luxury position where we can let players go for free at the end of the season. But we didn't get anybody else in really to replace him. And the squad is a little bit unbalanced, and a couple of injuries, we could be really in trouble. We're going to be hit badly by the African Nations Cup as well. But I think with Demarai Gray, I actually think Danjuma and Harrison are improvements on him. And I have a housemate who's a Leeds fan who swears that when Harrison gets into the team, he actually won't be dropped. So I'm not as concerned in the cold light today about Gray. I will miss Iwobi in terms of his ball carrying ability. Little bit frustrating in front of goal, but he was one of our most creative outlets. I'd much rather have him, to be honest with you. But what can you do? It's a huge opportunity. I think keep a big eye on James Garner. He had a really good game the weekend. If Doucouré goes to the AFCON, there's a spot in centre midfield for James Garner to make his own. And I mean, Jar Brantway, I think if he keeps going at this rate, will be knocking on the door of the England squad and won't be at Everton in 12 months' time.
Okay. All right. Cheers for that. Just a quick one, actually, Glenn. We had a Leeds fan, as I was telling you a few weeks ago on, who had a very kind of special memory as a Leeds fan. So, as an Everton fan, any favourite memory, anything that kind of comes to mind over the years?
Probably the first game that my dad brought me to when I was 8, on my 8th birthday. It was the relegation run in. Actually, funnily enough, the last time the 3 teams that came up went down, 97, 98. So we playing Leicester at home. Got my name called out on the intercom at half time.
Class.
Yeah, I always had this vision in my head of Duncan Ferguson hearing that in the changing room and go, go on, I'll do it for you. But we actually we were 1-0 up after 2 minutes. I don't know if you remember Mikkel Madar.
No.
Long-haired kind of fella. Got him from, I think it was Deportivo. He was only there for half a season. And then Ian Marshall equalised for Leicester. I think he was about 38 at the time, and finished the draw. So no, that was a real special one.
It's Goodison Park, a good stadium to be
in. Yes and no. I'm not going to sugarcoat the whole old lady stuff. I was over there in January, and you're paying 50, 60 quid for an obstructed view.
Really?
It's not a particularly modern or contemporary match day experience. I'd say in the away end, if you're winning, it's great crack. And I have been in. I was at the 3-0 to beat Arsenal a few years back as well. That was really special. But I think what I've seen that new stadium's got to be absolutely phenomenal. I just hope it's in the Premier League. I really do. And I don't think there'll be too much nostalgia then, because it looks like they've kind of avoided some of the mistakes of some of the older new stadiums in terms of getting a bit closer to the pitch, and it's red brick and it's going to be on the waterfront and stuff like that. But
is it in the same location, Glenn? Is it similar? Because I know the current one's in an estate, isn't it? So people always say how kind of old fashioned and cool it is to go to when it's in in the middle of an estate,
absolutely. Yeah.
This is on the docks.
It's right beside the water.
Yeah. Stone's throw from the you got to remember as well. In the last 15-20 years, Everton almost moved out of the city boundaries altogether. Yeah. That's split the fan base in half. This move out of Goodison's been coming a long time. There was previously supposed to be a stadium on Kingsdock when Bill Kenroy initially took over the club, and he said that I have the 30 million pounds ring fence for it, and then that never happened either. So there's been so many false dawns and missed opportunities with the stadium that just hopefully we get actually into the thing and we're still in the Premier League and we can kick on from there, and you can modernise your match day revenues and kind of build from there. That's
Is there anything you're saying relegation battle? Do you kind of, if you're mid-table and it's just mid-table all season, would you nearly rather be in a relegation battle for the excitement? I know that sounds daft, but you know what I mean.
I get you.
You know what I mean?
The last 2 years, I would take vanity, take absolutely nothing to play for by the middle of April. Absolutely, just a period of relative calm and stability, and go from there. Whether or not that's the man is probably a conversation for another day. I don't know whether if he steadies the ship, if the new owners will sort of want to go change of direction. I think if he keeps us up again and he keeps us well clear of trouble, I think he probably deserves a crack at the new stadium. But I still think with the Luton and Bournemouth at home our next 2 games, if we don't get at least 4, and if we maybe if we don't get 6 from those, he could be right back under pressure again. So I mean, it's only one win, and he knows he's got to improve. I think the crop of players he's got, well unbalanced, can still do better than they've done. I actually, just to paraphrase the last thing I'll say, was listening to the American Toffee podcast earlier on. They kind of put it in, you think, the reverse Benitez in a way, that when Benitez started with Everton, we were playing really poorly, but we were kind of winning a few games, and then we kind of regressed to the mean. Whereas, particularly the Fulham and the Wolves games, which we should have won, where we were XG, we were outperforming the results, and then at the weekend we've kind of progressed to the mean a little bit, So we'll see how we go.
No, I appreciate it. It's really actually some really interesting points on Everton. Some I knew, some I didn't know at all. Especially about the 777 crowd. And kind of just talk about the stadium as well. And I'm going to kind of stay on the topic of stadiums, because I know that you're a huge Shamrock Rovers fan as well. So on the topic of stadiums, Shamrock Rovers have had a huge history in terms of stadiums. They have had a number of homes over the years. And it was in 2009, if I'm right, when he finally got to move to Tallaght.
Correct.
So not when, but what was it like as a fan of Shamrock Rovers, having to kind of go from place to place over the years before you got to move to Tallaght? Like, first of all, what was it like as a fan having to do that? And then second of all, what's it been like the last few years having won the league title?
Well, so I kind of came in at the tail end of it. I would have sort of started going with my pals when I was kind of 15 years of age, but we would have had to make the trek across town to go and play in Tallaght Park. I remember watching them in Tallaght Park on a Sunday afternoon against Kilkenny City at RIP as well, in front of about 400 people, So I suppose the stark difference then, now, you get back in somewhere that you can call your own after 22 years. It was emotional to be at the first game. Of
course,
it would have meant a hell of a lot more to sort of the older generation. Then obviously we got off to a great start in Tallaght with a couple of titles, and didn't quite happen then. I mean, we qualified for the Europa League. Mick O'Neill kind of went off and did other things, and it kind of fell apart. But to be on the cusp of 4 in a row now to be honest with you, I'm kind of under no illusions that it could probably disappear for a couple of years because of the age profile of the squad if Stephen Bradley decides to move on after potentially winning 4 in a row. And there's money at Shells now, there's money at Derry, and now that's great for the league as well. But I think, I'm quite humble about the success I've seen Rovers enjoy, because I'm not used to it watching Everton, but also because I've enjoyed it with all my pals and with my brother as well. So it's been a big part of my life, and I wouldn't trade it for the world.
It's actually fairly refreshing to kind of hear people talk about the FAI in such a positive light,
not the FAI. I mean,
apologies, not the FAI, but the Irish League, absolutely. Just you touched on, I suppose, the manager Stephen Bradley. So he's been there since 2016, and he's won obviously three titles in a row now. You think that there could be interest from across the sea? He could be poached.
Well, there was in the past. I don't know how aware you are of his son Joshua, who hasn't been very well at all. And I think at times it was very difficult for him to even continue managing Rovers. But there's just kind of this, maybe I'd love to be proven wrong. We'd love him to stay on, but like, you win the 4 in a row, maybe is there an opportunity then to go off and do something else? He turned down Lincoln City a couple of times, I think possibly MK Dons as well when they were in League One. So maybe he has his sights set a little bit higher. I don't know. I think he was linked with the Hibs job as well. So yeah, who knows? I mean, it'd be an interesting off season because there could be interest in Duffer from across the water. The weird thing, sorry, go on ahead.
No, go on. Sorry, go on.
I was just going to say, Rovers were maybe in this position 2 or 3 years ago where like players would go to, like, the good players from maybe Bows or Shells or Pats, they'd go to Rovers before going across the water. But now, because I suppose the league has developed in such a way, Rovers aren't that stepping stone anymore. Players are going straight to England from those clubs as well. Like Shells are losing Jack Moylan who's a fabulous player, to Lincoln in January as well. So it's actually almost harder for Rovers now to kind of, don't have the cream of the crop anymore. It's going to be somebody else's turn.
I have sorry, Dan, I'm just, you can just give me one quick question. I have a few fans in the FAI. Now I have a friend of mine who's a Sligo Rovers fan, and I won't say he has a particular disdain for Shamrock Rovers, but I was talking to him during the week, and he was kind of saying the Shamrock Rovers are the Man United of the Irish Premier Division, or the Real Madrid of the Irish Premier Division. You either love them or you hate them. Would you care to refute that, and what has given you that reputation?
Well, there's no point in refuting it because we bloody embrace it with the whole "we are Rovers, super Rovers. No one likes us. We don't care." But I think it's probably the price of success, you know. And like, I mean, I don't like to see the League of Ireland's fan base get too much of a rough ride. I mean, football is like that, and because of economies of scale, and Rovers have a few more fans than their clubs. They have a bit more of a history with it. But like, I've been down in Sligo, been away in Waterford, and like had serious points with lads from all clubs, you know. So I mean, I think it's banter at most of a level.
Of course,
you do hear the sort of order, the FAI's model club, to this, that, and the other. I mean, it's probably a little bit of bitterness.
Of course, yeah, absolutely. It's all in good humor. And I suppose, do Shamrock Rover fans, do you enjoy being called Shams?
It's literally only Sligo fans who do that.
Is it really?
Apparently, they're the real Rovers. But if that's the level at which I think that they've got a relegation playoff to prepare for, they should probably be more concerned about that.
I have to have a good conversation with the Sligo Rovers fans tomorrow. Very good. Dan, sorry, you would have.
I just want to ask, just in relation to Europe. So Europe kind of was a bit of a shambles in all the qualifications. I think it was there a Hungarian team and their team from Kazakhstan. Like what? I remember in the not too distant past where Rovers they play Spurs and not. I mean, just like what in relation to the Irish teams, not just Rovers. Like, what is it? Do you think is it just down to money? Quality of players you mentioned there about the other teams being a bit of a stepping stone, but why are the likes of, say, clubs in the likes of Kazakhstan and Hungary, teams that I had to Google, to be honest with you, when I was looking at earlier in the season when Rovers were in the qualifying round, they were playing. I never heard of them. I don't know if you heard of them, but I never heard of them. But why is it that they took a bit of a pace in one or two of them? Like, why is it that the likes of them and Derry struggle to qualify for even the conference? They don't think they didn't qualify for even for the Conference League. So I'm just wondering what I said. I'm not that well in tune with it, so I just wanted to ask what your thoughts to be on it.
Shows the level that the Irish teams are at. I mean, two things can be true: that there's been improvements, but that it hasn't actually improved fast enough. Like, the Icelandic champions, Breda Balak, came to Tallaght earlier in the season, played as off the park part-time team. There you get beaten by a side from Kazakhstan, but you're coming up against like champions of leagues that, I mean, like Ferencváros have beaten Rovers a couple of seasons in a row, much bigger budget than us. International players in their squads. You know, so success in Europe for Irish teams is never a guarantee. Rovers got to the Conference League group stages last year, and it was probably to look at a draw a little bit. Like, if you can be seeded in the first qualifying round and get the champions of Poland as your unseeded team, and sure, then you're down into the Conference League. But if you're seeded and then you get the unseeded champions of Malta, you're into the second qualifying round of the Champions League, and if you get knocked out of that, you go into the Europa League before you go into the Conference League.
Yeah.
So, you know, there's a certain element of it's been a bad year for Irish teams this year. It doesn't mean anything next year, like, because I think they're 32nd, 33rd in the coefficient. But you got to remember that you're playing like a country like Croatia, for example, similar population to Ireland. Nobody over there plays hurling or GAA or rugby, you know. But I think there's a hell of a lot of progress that can be made, but a lot of it comes down to political will, and would love to see in that All Ireland League kind of get a chance. But I think the Northern Irish League have kind of put that kind of in the ground once and for all, or at least for a while, which is a bit of a shame, you know, because it would be at least more of an interesting kind of a thing for people to be able to, you know, rather than playing UCD 4 times a season, it's maybe you've got Linfield twice a season, or you've got Clifton. I think that to me would be a nice little kind of a selling point.
100%. There's definitely there's a space for it. Absolutely. And look, you never know what can happen down the line. Okay, we'll move on to Fanatic 4 weekend predictions. So next weekend there are some really, really good ties coming up. So again, like last week, if you want to send in your predictions for the following four fixtures to us, you can send it on Instagram, you can send it on Facebook, on Twitter, etc. Just message them into us before Friday at 10 p.m. and you'll be in with a chance to win a club jersey of your choice. So the fixtures are Aston Villa and Brighton, Everton and Luton, Man United and Crystal Palace, and Spurs and Liverpool. So, Dan, we're going to start with you. Aston Villa and Brighton. What do you think?
Yeah, very tough one to call. I have gone for 2-1 Villa. But I do think that it's a very, very tight one to call, and it's close for going for a draw. I think Villa have a few good fixtures coming up for them, and I just have a feeling they might be just a bit steelier at home against Brighton. I think they might just do enough. So I'll go for 2-1 for the Villa.
Steelier. Is that a word?
I don't know if it is. I think Brighton are great to watch just against some of the sides where they're kind of maybe are stronger at the back or a bit more well organized. They struggle.
They play better nearly against the better teams.
Brighton, I do. I think.
Yeah. Howard, what do you think?
Yeah, I thought it was a tough one to call. I've 2-1 Villa as well. Just the good win against Chelsea for them. Like, I don't know if you saw Matoma's little cameo there at the weekend as well. Brilliant. He's some player. He's just
another player that could easily be poached next summer.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean? They just bring in unbelievable players. I mean, whatever system they have going, it's working so well.
He could play for any of the teams in the Premier League.
I think the next one to go is going to be the left back.
Esteban, yeah.
Yeah, I think he could be the next one that there's a few clubs that could do with a left back. I think he could be the next one to go for 100 million.
yeah.
Another dud. Yeah. Glenn, Aston Villa and Brighton, what do you think?
I go the other way. I go 3-2 Brighton.
Really? Okay, very good. Because these two have been predicting for weeks, and now I see that they're pretty much just kind of go over the same score for both of them, trying to kind of team up in the hope that they'll kind of pull something out of the bag. But
is Ferguson near back? Is he?
He played there at the weekend. Yeah.
Oh, he did actually. Yeah. That's right.
Okay, 3-2 to Brighton. Brilliant. Glenn, we'll stick with you. Everton versus Luton.
He was left in the cross. I mean, you know when you're just playing those teams that haven't gotten their first win yet, but I mean, I think after last weekend, we go to Villa away in the Carabao Cup on Wednesday. I think he'll rest a few players. I think we'll be okay. I think we'll win 3-1 Everton.
Okay.
It has to stop eventually.
Yeah, no. What do you call it? I had Luton to get their first 3 points of the weekend there against Wolves.
Yeah, and then they went down to 10 men. Wolves. You must have been licking your lips then.
Stop! It was ridiculous. But anyways, look, it is what it is. Dan, Everton and Luton.
2-0 Everton.
For sake, Dan, you keep taking my scores. Like,
are you serious? You have 2-0 as well.
I'll go for someone else. I'll go 1-0, just to scrape a 1-0 Everton.
1-0. Okay, very good. Now, on to Man United versus Crystal Palace. Just on United as well, obviously they 1-0 against Burnley at the weekend. What did you think? Just a very great. It was a great goal. It was a fantastic goal. Great. Sorry, Dan, go ahead.
No, great goal and an awful match. Though I thought it wasn't a great watch. But onwards and upwards for United. Takes the pressure off a small bit.
Yeah. Dan, on United versus Crystal Palace. I just want to come back to Glenn. Just one question a sec. Man United and Crystal Palace?
I've gone for 1-0 United.
1-0 United. Howard?
I have 2-1 United.
Okay, and Glenn?
We know that win. I don't know how many players they'll have back. Yeah, I mean, I'll go 2-1 United. Just about
United. And just on United, I suppose we kind of spoke about them last week. Actually, we're speaking about them most weeks because they are the gift that keeps on giving. But I suppose, what have you made of their start? What have you made of the current issues at United? And I suppose, look, people kind of can give out that you're talking about United every week, concentrate elsewhere. But look, the thing is, they're in the news every week. They are the biggest club in the world. I would be doing the show and the viewers and the listeners wrong if we don't talk about what's in the news, etc. So, Glenn, what do you make of United and their start?
Well, I have to say, I actually thought that them getting Mason Mount was a lovely bit of business in. Thought on paper their signings of them were great, but I suppose I have a great CV on paper as well. Doesn't mean I'm going to get the dream job. I think they've been pretty poor. Like, I mean, they're very lucky the first game with that on and not giving that penalty away. kind of okay in pockets, played off the park by Spurs in the second half. No, I mean, like I haven't been impressed by them. The weekend was a really tough game considering everybody they were missing, and actually kind of half thought Burnley might pip them. So who knows? Maybe they can use that as something to jumpstart. I don't think the off the pitch stuff has helped either.
No, definitely not. And that's kind of why I was asking as well, because obviously Everton have their off the pitch issues as well. So just kind of said I'd get your opinion on United's kind of current area, how they're doing, etc. So the last game, I suppose you can call it the biggest game of the weekend, is Spurs versus Liverpool. So Dan, how do you see this one going?
I have gone for right now. What did I go for? I've gone for 2-2.
Really?
On the fence, Dan. On the fence.
I've gone 2-2. I would take a point now.
Would
you
you
offered it to me? I would 100%. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Now you were saying last week, you were very passionate. Don't get
a lot
too
of things.
You do. You say a lot of things. You send a lot of fucking text messages, shite as well. You were saying don't get too excited about Spurs, etc. After the weekend, you said wait till the weekend against Arsenal and now this upcoming game against Liverpool. So 2-2. What do you call it? Like, do you see Spurs coming out and attacking Liverpool? You see Liverpool
100%.
Yeah.
100%. Yeah, I think it'll be wide open. And I think that will show the frailties on both sides. I actually don't think Spurs' defense is great either. So I think we could definitely get at them. Just worry about the middle of the park and the energy that Sarr, Basuma, the guy that you mentioned, Glenn, as well, has been excellent in a few games. Yeah, excellent. Yeah, they have a good bunch of players, and Son has he's one I can already envision us being high line, Maddison looking for Song and playing that ball all day, and they'll eventually get it right. So, yeah, I do. I take a point now. I still wouldn't get massively excited about Spurs. Even off the back of the match against Arsenal, I thought Arsenal's defending for that first goal was shambolic. It was like four of them were Song.
Yeah,
and but that was a fantastic finish. But I would. Yeah, you'd imagine that's the way that Spurs have started the season and the form that they're in, the confidence that it'll be a tough one for us. And I've been saying don't get excited about Spurs, but I've also been saying the same about my own team. So I'm happy to take a point. I'd take a point away at Brighton or Spurs, as I think anyone who watches football, I think most teams, maybe bar maybe City, would take a point away at either end side. So yeah, I'm on for 2-2.
All right, Howard, what do you think?
I've 3-2 Spurs.
3-2 Spurs.
I just think, yeah. Look, I was surprised how well Tottenham played. They're on a high at the moment. Like I what Dan was saying there. He doesn't see this. I don't think he'll see it last. I don't see it lasting myself personally. Not that the Ange ball and everything is great. I just think if they were to miss a player or two, they're in a bit of trouble. Like Maddison, I thought when I saw the replay, he might have done his ACL there at the weekend. But he was fine. He came back on. So like you'd like to think like they need to keep him fit obviously for the whole season. So let's see what happens. I think Spurs will be coming and attacking Liverpool. I think if Liverpool need to get someone again, need to get it in the first few minutes, need to start well. Tottenham have started games pretty poorly this year. In the first 30 minutes, they've been pretty bad. So if they can get at them, Liverpool at the start, and maybe quieten the crowd, they might stand a chance. But if Spurs get into their groove, Ange ball might be coming home. So we'll be getting Kieran on next week for that.
It'll be guaranteed a very exciting game, though.
I think it'll be an excellent game. Glenn, how do you see this one going?
Gonna go with my head, not my heart. I'm gonna say 3-2 to Liverpool.
3-2 to Liverpool. Fair enough. So 2-2, 3-2, and 2-3. Fair enough. Interesting. I do think it'll be an excellent game, though. Actually, could be one of the better games already this season. All right. So as I was saying before, you can send in your predictions to the podcast. You can message us on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. Send in your predictions. If you get all 4 right, you will win a club jersey of your choice. So now we move on to the league, the Fantasy Football League for the podcast. So Dan, give us an update. How are we doing? How bad has Howard done?
I'm going to give it 2 little pieces of information. Firstly, my Chelsea experiment for my own team has ended. I can tell you now, and I can't wait to get them fuckers out.
Yeah,
so, yeah. You persevere in this game. Like I don't know.
There was,
the
Jackson and the Sterling thing. Everyone was getting them in, wasn't it? And then
Jackson, Sterling, and they've had so many chances in them games as well, and haven't been able to take them. So, and secondly, I'll be using my wild card to get rid of them as well. So there's 2 pieces of information for you. Anyway. Big weekend for a few. Stephen Flynn, y'all need Jesus. He's top of the league. He had a good week, and then Connor Jordan. I think, is he one of your mates? No,
he's not. He's no friend of mine.
I'm
only joking. If he's listening, now, he's a good guy. Not the nicest lad in the world, but he's all right. Like.
Yeah, he managed to have Son, Saka, Matoma, and Botman, Foden, and Haaland as captain. So he actually finished there with 92 points. So which is a monster.
The week that Connor Jordan was on top, I messaged him afterwards, and I said to him, or he said to me, fantasy football, it's a marathon. You kind of, you can be top 1 week, you can be fucking down in 10th the next week.
Yeah, but like, put it in perspective there, like I'm 15th, and I am, 44 points off top. Like it's not like it's really tight there. So, and usually a lot of people who kind of aren't the diehards like myself that will kind of maybe after the next international break or by November will just not bother checking their team or missed it once or twice and then said fuck it, or if they're doing shite, then definitely have stopped playing it. But yeah, I'm definitely going to be using my wild card anyway, and I think the Newcastle one at the weekend as well. Like there was a lot of people who had Trippier, I think, who got a serious amount of points. And Dan Byrne was another one as well, and Botman. So they had a big week. Yeah, a few good pictures coming up for like I think Villa. A few good pictures coming up, and Newcastle as well. So yeah. But that is the top of the table at the moment. Anyway, Stephen Flynn and Connor Jordan are top 2 there at the moment.
1 and 2. And Howard, how are you doing? How was your weekend?
I'm only 9 points behind Dan. So
think
about that now. 9 points.
Yeah, but what position are you in?
I'm 23rd. So I'm moving up. Slowly.
My God.
But 9 points instead. That's how tight it is. Like Spoofers FC. Dan is 15th. Like I'm 23rd. It's only 9 points different. So
I'm telling you, I'd be nearly winning this thing if I didn't have fucking Chelsea Egypt on my team.
Yeah, well, look, Dan, your wild card will tell a lot now. You could don't do what I did anyway.
Honestly, I'll take them out now. You just know next week, Sterling Jackson or Sterling anyway, will bag a brace or something. This is the way it goes.
Yeah.
Glenn, do you do fantasy football?
I do, yeah. Just kind of at a casual level, not in any paid leagues or anything like that. I was just outside the top 100k there last week, but I slipped back down. I think I'm about 331,000 or something like that. But that's actually an above average start for myself. So,
how many points are you on, Glenn? Do you know what your points are?
390. I just have it open there.
Oh, fuck! You'll be second. You'll be second if you're in.
You'll be second if you're in our league.
Oh yeah.
But
this isn't like Celtic or Rangers getting into the Premier League. Is there a process that I can apply?
Yeah. If you join now, Dan, or what's the story? Is it closed, or if you start from the bottom, like?
No, the way it worked was we kept it open for like 2 weeks, and then because we have a prize up for grabs, it wouldn't be fair for like say.
Fair enough.
To hop in now, who's got like.
No, that's great. No, I didn't know how it was.
I'll start me way down the football league pyramid and work my way up to you, right?
Oh, very good. Okay, so finally on to Monksland United. So at the weekends, they had a 2-0 victory over Temple Villa and Leinster Junior Cup. This weekend sees them playing away to Arlington at 2 o'clock on Sunday, and their B team, Monksland B team, are playing Portlaoise at 11 a.m. in Cushla. So Monksland B team's fixture at the weekend was actually called off due to a shortage of referees. Okay, so I just before we finish up, I just want to have a quick chat about this. Glenn, I suppose we'll get your kind of view from the Irish leagues as well. Shortage of referees. Now, I have no idea why that referee didn't show up, but just referees in general. Like, I mean, it's been kind of over in the media over the last year that referees are getting attacked. They're getting, just the abuse of referees seems to be growing over the last while, and I suppose, especially at junior level. I mean, Glenn, do you see it? Are you seeing it kind of in the junior leagues at all around Ireland? Kind of referees not wanting to stay involved in football.
I can only go, to be honest with you, lads, on what I've kind of heard on the radio, and kind of videos. And I mean, I think, but it seems to be more prevalent in GAA. The whole what was it? I was at a fight the other day, and a GAA match broke out. Kind of approach, you know. But look, as society in general has gotten more violent over the last number of years, and junior football doesn't exist in a vacuum. So just a byproduct of that, you know. But maybe there's always more that the junior leagues can do to run respect campaigns, or just take teams out of leagues, or sometimes you have to take no prisoners with these sort of things. I'm not going to put it back on referees being poor, because I mean, at the end of the day, the stakes are pretty low, and these people are doing it out of a love of the game, and maybe because they weren't good enough to get on a team themselves, But no, I mean, to be honest with you, I wouldn't follow grassroots or at that close to the soil level now. I haven't played for many years myself. I'm just an armchair manager.
Yeah. Dan, any input on this? Referees.
What did you say that you didn't?
Just I suppose, I mean, our referees I mean, whatever, but forget about the professional level, because they're well looked after. But I mean, we hear about it in GA. You hear about it in football, soccer matches as well, like that. They get dogs abuse, and I mean, obviously it's going to affect them. They're going to take a step back. They're just not going to get involved, and it's going to end up in situations like this, where on a Sunday league game, where the referees aren't going to turn up. Now, again, I have no idea why this referee didn't turn up, but I'm just curious your opinion on kind of how referees are treated in general.
Yeah, I suppose they are getting a serious amount of abuse. I know now, even in looking at the Premier League now, that they're trying to suppose they're giving out cards like confetti now for any sort of Bruno Fernandes. I remember he's got a couple, I think, from up burning the ear off the ref and roaring in his face. I think that isn't nice, or is not fair.
Oh shit! I forgot the last man standing stuff. I must
bring
that
but
up.
But you know what? Actually, I think there's a lad that we know that would have a decent opinion, I think, on this. I think what you get, man. I don't really know either. I don't think it's right for, especially at the underage levels. It should be trying to get stamped out there. That people are going. They've seen over the last number of years, refs getting abused left, right, centre. Glenn mentioned as well in the GA, the fighting and everything like that. It has to be, as you said, no prisoners, Glenn. I think with it, there shouldn't be any toleration of it. But it does go on, especially in the junior level. I've been at games in the past myself. Even though, to be honest with you, going to Athlone Town games, I don't know if Glenn sees as well at the Rovers games. Refs get a fierce amount of abuse. I feel anyway of players and fans at these games. It is.
But it comes.
They have the luxury of, at least there's a touch line and there's stewards there, know. And I tend to agree with Duffer in terms of, I mean, like he said earlier in the season, the quality of the league's improving, but the officiating has to come with us. And every week, I mean, there's just, I know it's bad in England as well, but I mean, the standard of officiating at League of Ireland level wouldn't be something you'd try to sell to somebody to get them to come. Although there's no VAR, so
yeah.
But it's top down, they are trying to cut out the dissent and all that. You saw a few players getting yellow cards there during the week, even in North London Derby. But it is I think one of the lads got interviewed afterwards, and he was just saying the referee told me he has to make an example for even the lower leagues or the amateur leagues ref when he's doing it, because it sets a precedent. You know what I mean? If you start taking shit and everyone's abusing the referee when they see it on TV, they're going to be doing it when they go down to the stands in the Sunday league games. So
I actually remember. Howard, when we were younger, I saw you play a few games, and I saw you mouthing off to many a referee.
I was getting kicked out the place.
I played in the same team as you many years ago for a couple of games, and I remember one specific game down in Roscommon where you gave the referee dogs abuse.
Did I? Jesus, I don't remember that at all. You must have been dreaming. That's not me at all. I'm very not honest player. I know that's the Roscommon League, and that you'd be doing well to get a yellow card in games like that. It's, as I say, it's the only way to assault a person in real life and actually get away with it. You know what I mean? That was the Roscommon League. You only get a yellow card for taking some lads' legs away. So
fair enough. Sorry, no, I completely forgot. Last man standing. So there were 25 eliminated over the weekend. Luton and Brentford were the main casualties. There's 73 remaining. So Dan, are you still in?
Yes, I am.
Oh, who'd you have at the weekend?
I had Brighton at the weekend.
Oh, very good, very good.
And I'm in another one that I have City, and I had City as well. So I'm still standing.
You're doing all right. I mean, you're kind of, I know there's still 70 odd left, but I mean, you said you have your next few weekends mapped
Well,
out.
if I manage to get to the Merseyside derby, I'll be picking Liverpool.
Fair enough. Okay, so what's it called? 73 remaining. Start off.
How many? 73.
73 remaining, yeah.
Oh, still a good lot, isn't there? Yeah. Okay.
It is, but I mean, fair play. I mean, actually, yeah. By the way, Glenn, Everton let me down a couple of weeks back. Just said I'd throw that in there. Okay. Listen, we will leave it there, guys. Glenn, thanks very much for coming on. Really appreciate it.
No, listen, lads, thanks very much for having me. It's been a pleasure.
Good stuff. Howard and Dan, cheers again for all your input, and we'll see you two again next week. And
cheers, Dak.
Next week, as far as I'm aware, Dan, we have a Tottenham Hotspur fan coming on.
Not next week. Is it 2 weeks' time?
Apologies.
It could be
2 weeks' time. We could be back. Kieran could be back with us next week. We will see.
Yeah.
All right. Listen, we will leave it there. As always, you can subscribe to us on YouTube. You can follow us on Spotify at the Football Fanatic Podcast. We're on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram as well if you want to get in touch. Listen, thank you very much for all the good feedback. Please keep it coming, and we will leave it there. Guys, have a great week, okay?
Cheers, Zach.
Cheers, all. Thanks.
All right. Thanks, guys. Mind yourself.